There we go. All right, so now we're broadcasting live. So this is another Paradigm Shift Radio After Party Hangout. So everybody say hi to the internet. Make like a funny face. Go hi internet, like woo, hi internet, woo.
Hi internet.
All right, okay. I think I got a picture from that. All right, so I'm gonna post that.
Oh God! Please
invite more people. Don't worry, it'll be a good one. And then obviously inviting more people to watch and get involved with the conversation here. But yeah, just setting this in a direction with the theme with the show. The whole topic was sharing what we know. So I'd be curious if someone here is perhaps like an expert on anything, so to speak, that they can pass on some knowledge about, or maybe not expert, but just maybe you've done like a lot of research on a particular topic that you would be interested in sharing with us. And yeah, it looks like Joe's here. Joe's got his gear figured out. So Joe, welcome, man.
Can you guys hear that?
Yeah, we can.
What up, pilot?
Yo, Roger, welcome, man.
My computer crashed, man.
All right. Well, at least you're still in one piece. So. Well, yeah, just kind of passing this around. Does anybody have some knowledge that they want to share? And we'll just sort of conserve, like try not to share the talking stick conservatively. So, does anybody want to start us off?
Everyone has a mom and a dad, somewhat depending on the situation.
Jessica, good luck with your dad. I hope he doesn't get
Last night I was informed that I should stop drinking so much Diet Pepsi or diet sodas in particular, because aspartame is actually one that will mimic the effects of MS in somebody that drinks too much.
Yeah, just to piggyback on what you're saying really quick, if you're going to drink soda, just drink a regular soda. Like, I've told my parents this time and time again, when you see diet on a soda, just think chemical shitstorm. Like, just drink regular sodas if you're going to drink soda. Like, in all seriousness, just drink a regular soda if you're going to drink soda.
Like regular juice or something.
I don't know, I kind of keep with the water. You can clean your toilet with it, don't drink it.
Just drink beer.
Unfortunately, I've had diabetes for on August 30th, 20 years, and I've been drinking diet soda for that long. And regular soda makes me sick to my stomach violently.
Oh no.
Is it type 1 or type 2 diabetes?
I have type 1. I was diagnosed when I was 7 years old.
Oh my gosh, my feelings go out to you. That's a long time to be with something that at this point is irreversible, not to anyone's knowledge.
Yeah. So I was told to stop drinking all of that, and I'm going to take this person's advice because apparently they want me to stay around for a long time.
We all would like you to stay around for quite a while.
Whoa.
You can try try expanding your palate a little bit to like fermented drinks or kombucha or brewing your own kind of things.
I like a lot of fruit juices, like apple juice, but I'm also going to start drinking tea, and I have to stop drinking Java Monsters. I've been told I have to stop drinking those too.
I'm guessing those are coffee beverages, yes?
Yeah, that's the coffee energy drink.
Okay. Okay.
Those are the only ones I like.
Yeah, I had to give up coffee a while ago because I was working at a job where we had a free coffee machine, and I mean it was just like my outlet for stress. I was stressed, I'd go get a cup of coffee. I was dozing off, I'd go get a cup of coffee, and like between coffee and Red Bull every day for like a year, it wreaked havoc on my stomach. Like it's not a good combination.
I'm kind of curious. While you were having all that, a year of just feeding yourself those things, did you notice any impact or significant impact on your mood, like specifically your level of happiness?
I mean, well, what it was necessarily, it was just because, like, because of the job I was working in D.C. As a leasing consultant, and it was just like you could tell how stressed I was at work by the size of the Red Bull can on my desk. So to say I was not in the best emotional state, but I really don't know if the aside from like the physical attributes, I really can't say, because I was just kind of all over the place emotionally at the time. I really can't give any exact marker, I guess, on how I guess my emotions were affected, because it was just a really stressful time.
I was just curious because because, well, I don't know how recent it is, but it's well recognized now that it's our stomach villi that produce most of the serotonin in our bodies, and those hormones that make us feel good. And when people are wreaking havoc on their stomach lining like that, I was just kind of curious as to hear people's experience and feedback when they're really wreaking havoc on their digestion, if actually they feel a direct correlation with their emotional state.
That's really interesting. As far as the serotonin goes, I had no idea that it was our really, that's so interesting.
No, not our stomach, but most of it is produced in our small intestine.
Oh, okay. Well, that's really good to know. You learn something new every day.
Yeah.
Colors are awesome. I know that much.
Is that Joel talking about intestine producing serotonin?
Yeah.
Have you heard also that your intestines, or the flora in it, produces like a certain amount of protein and B vitamins like every day, regardless of what you're eating? Which is why certain people who just can wreak havoc, pretty much vodka and hot dogs or whatever, and they can still live fairly long, even though the majority doesn't. Intestine producing.
Yeah, to a degree, because that's in the large intestine and the colon.
Also, that your intestines, or the flora in it, produces like a certain amount of protein and B vitamins like every day, regardless of what you're eating. Which is why people who just
Bonnie, I don't know what's happening with your audio, but it's repeating like a 20-second delay.
Yeah, that's somebody else's microphone going when you mute it. I think it's Bonnie.
You stop that.
Yeah, Stephen. Actually, we're talking about all the B vitamins are produced by the bacteria in our colon, in our large intestine, not in our small intestine. So most of what we shit out is like 30% or more bacteria. It's amazing how many of them there actually are in our body. Like there's more of them than there are cells of us. And actually, it's a really interesting subject as a whole, because realizing that most of our body is really comprised of microorganisms, it's like our body is really just a house for this whole community. And then when we create dysbiosis in our bodies, and we don't create a friendly environment for all these creatures that live in us and that make up us, then we start feeling like negative feedbacks from that, like cravings for certain foods, or really poor emotional states and things like that, almost like as a direct result of the dysbiosis we create in our bodies for these organisms. So things like even emotional eating and stuff like that, there's like this really fine line between what is it that's like, is it just a mental addiction or something like that, or is it actually because you've created this harmony in your body, and it's these organisms that are starving and they're like screaming in the environment that you created for them, so they're influencing you like parasites, and some of those organisms can easily be parasites. In fact, statistics I think are about over 70% or more of people, well, these statistics are usually for the United States, but anyways, most people have parasites in their bodies and don't even realize it. And parasites have the ability to hijack us and like a parasite does, they manipulate us so that we can create an environment that's more favorable for them.
Right.
And that's super interesting, because like this week I have had a shit week personally, and I know that I'm dealing with certain stuff, but at the same time I'm also considering what's happening inside me, inside my gut, and understanding that I'm having certain cravings, and then I rationalize doing certain things, but it's like, how much of it is me and how much of it is them that are actually influencing my thoughts? And this is actually, it's a very real thing that happens. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of some interesting like infinite feedback loop, because it's also the ecology around us has the same kind of things happening, and that can affect our thoughts.
Yeah.
And internally our thoughts can be affected, but still, like, as a trinity, if you can maintain some sort of neutral like auto-suggestion, you can kind of stay tuned and flow through that and kind of I don't know, start to put out a frequency that causes more harmony in your body. Something I'm coming across, at least recently. The one guy I followed that brought up the thing with the intestines and some other profound stuff was David Jubb. I don't know if you've heard of him or not.
What does he offer into our
His degree is a neurobehavioral physicist, and he's like I don't know, this interesting Australian Tasmanian shaman, nutritionist, life food. He's big on raw foods.
Well, Joel, you mentioned something about bacteria in your stomach and how like 70% of it, there is good and bad bacteria. I did read something about it. What it's called is candida, and you can Google it. They've got medicine that you can take for it. I believe it's turmeric.
Well, actually, it's not in our stomach. Our stomach's job, part of it, is to neutralize pathogens with the HCl. The candida would exist. The candida is actually a fungus. It's not a bacteria, and we have both fungus and bacteria that are that make up our microbiome in our bodies. And those and then not just those are just main categories, and there's like over 50 different type of candidas, and there's all these different species of things that are inside of us. Some are bacteria, some are funguses. And what's interesting is, like, even plants growing in soil, they have this harmonious relationship with the microorganisms in the soil. Like, their root structures are extended by this fine balance between the bacteria and the fungi, like the bacteria bringing in like resources for the plant to use, and the fungi sort of extending that web almost as an extension of their roots. It's like the same thing within our bodies. So sometimes these things all get a bad rap, but everything's there for a reason. For instance, candida has a job of, one of its jobs is eating heavy metals. So just attacking the candida alone and then stopping there is not really recognizing why it's there in the first place. Yeah,
well,
it's making you.
There needs to be a balance, and that's what they was talking about. Is a lot of people have an imbalance in those positive agents and negative agents in their system.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Does anybody know anything about gluten by any chance? Because I don't really know too much about why people have gluten allergies, but like it's something that's really always interests me.
Yeah, there's a. I can take that, but if someone else wants to talk, go ahead.
I don't know about why, but I have gluten allergies.
You do? I think everybody does, but we just don't really know that. You know what I mean?
Well,
and it's weird. I don't know. That's why like I want to describe gluten, because it's like such a weird thing.
Yeah, not everyone has a gluten allergies or intolerances. Gluten is just a protein found in grains, wheat being and other wheat varieties being a primary donor of that. And that particular protein is that what happens with people who have an intolerance to it is because their bodies don't produce the enzyme necessary for digesting that protein. So then it lingers there, causing inflammation and all sorts of havoc in your digestive tract because it can't be broken down. And when molecules can't be broken down as they travel through our digestive tract, they become toxic. Like, our body is designed in such a way that it breaks every main molecule down into all its smallest parts, and then it rewires all those little parts as building blocks for what it needs. And if it can't do that, then it's going to create problems in your body. Some call like autoimmune, but I don't know if that's entirely accurate. Some say that with the leaky gut syndrome, if you have these proteins lingering out into your bloodstream because of leaky gut, then your immune system starts reacting against you, and then you have allergies. Like that's the physiological kind of background, but then there's also like this whole energetics thing with when it comes to intolerances and with allergies. Like with intolerances, it's something that's derived out of it's a genetic thing or it's a judgment that you hold towards something or that you've adopted that someone else has passed on. Whereas allergies are a manifestation of an extreme fear. And all allergies are rooted out of fear, despite their physiological effects on your body.
It could be, well, if I may intervene, it could be also genetic. I mean, allergies are, I mean, I'm kind of experienced in this because I was very allergic to a lot of things growing up. And I remember, like, I used to be allergic at that point where, I couldn't eat anything. And if I ate a certain form of, protein, like, or, my skin would just start to kind of fall off, and it would be really bad. I mean, I got sent to the hospital. But, dude, like, it was super fascinating, man, Joel, what you're saying, because I was gonna, there's this fungi called Penicillium, the Penicillium fungi, and it is actually it's a mold that that is formed in, like, let's say when you see like an apple and you see this like mold forming, you could actually derive it. You could derive penicillin G from it, and it could actually kill allergies. So that's like a very fascinating thing. It's just like such a like this process of how it was just invented. So many people were sick, and penicillin was invented like that, and it just cured so many people.
That's
Yeah,
super.
go ahead, Sherman. Go ahead.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut anyone off. I was just gonna say that's super interesting because the only experience I have with allergies, really, kitty cat. The only experience I have with allergies is I remember when I was younger, I was allergic to strawberries, but I outgrew that allergy, if you will.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that was really interesting.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah, same here. I actually, like, what happened? Like, did you just like did you eat? Did you like drink a certain form of tea, or why did you what happened?
Quite literally, I just remember, when I was younger, I was told, I went to the doctor, I was told I was allergic to strawberries, and, I guess, just through time, really, I would eat strawberries, you know what I mean, and nothing would happen, and it was just apparently I outgrew it. It was really strange.
Nice.
Yeah. No complaints here.
Yeah, well, allergies have like different mechanisms because there's like 4 or 5 different antibodies that respond in the body, and only one of them or 2 of them are the ones that are like life-threatening. But I wonder how that relates with the energetics of it, because one of the things that I learned with energy medicine, and these techniques do work, is that when we utilize a methodology of releasing a fear, that is what's holding on to that allergy, because as I said, allergies exist within us regardless. There's always a fear presence. And when we release that, the allergy goes with it. So then I wonder if
I'm sorry, please continue.
So then when something seems to just kind of like, I was allergic to it and now I'm not, if it's because you found your own way to release that particular fear, maybe you didn't quite consciously recognize it, you weren't making a conscious effort that I want to release this fear, but you overcame it, and then the allergy that it was energetically linked to also left you. Does that make sense?
No, that makes perfect sense. I wonder if the prior knowledge to, like, being allergic to something, how much that would affect that, you know what I mean? Because aside from having an adverse reaction to something, eating it initially before knowing you're allergic to something, I guess, a doctor or any kind of medical profession. I just wonder how that would affect the whole allergy reactiveness within the body, I guess.
Well, if fear is present, then for sure that could totally apply. If it's judgment present, then now we're talking about intolerances. That's the interesting.
We also definitely have the pharmacological tools to release fear. I mean, there's a lot of things. I mean, there's things like holotropic breath work. Have you guys ever heard of that? I mean, that's like something I've checked out recently. There's this psychoanalyst Stanlov Grof who did a really fascinating bit on that. He just, is basically kind of like oxygen deprivation from your brain, and it kind of definitely puts you in a state, visionary state, where you see maybe your consciousness is more centered in you, and you feel more cleared. I mean, it's very fascinating. I definitely like check out holotropic breath work. That's like something.
Hey Nikolai, would you mind throwing that up in the side chat? I'd totally like to do some more research about that.
I'll do that.
Thank you.
It's the focal point of that is bringing a change into the state of mind, the state of awareness, to kind of process that. Is that what you're getting at, Nikolai?
Yeah, no. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly where I'm getting at, bro. It's just getting to a point where you realize that, the thing is, there's a lot of, if you see a lot of religions that, they say, it's basically, they say, oh, it's hell or heaven, but, on a fundamental and intellectual level, you go, you're right now, you could be in hell or heaven, it's really inside of you that's happening, it's not really up there or down there, it's all in you, really. So you see kind of like, you see it's kind of like the mechanism that people are just like comparing these things to kind of this bright kind of brightness and kind of the darkness, and it's I don't know if that makes sense, but you know what I mean, right?
Kind of, sorta.
yeah, no, but it's yeah, my point is, it's you were asking, how to let go of fear. I think we definitely do have things for that, and if we need them, we have them. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah. Like with the mechanisms that I utilize with certain affirmations and body work, it ultimately what it does is it's just like using this tool to get the person to take conscious ownership over that fear, over that exaggerated response, over that intolerance, whatever it may be. It's a way for the person to acknowledge that I had a role to play with this. At the time it served me, now it no longer does, and I'm okay to release this now. So it's like doing that same thing, but it's just like this little almost kind of quick and short, quick, streamlined process of the person acknowledging that and taking ownership over it, if they choose to. If they choose to. If they don't, then the process doesn't work. And yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we as human beings, I feel like our own your inner intelligence is really what is the thing that is the most powerful in you, the inner intelligence that separates it and your self-identity. I feel like, and I feel like from my experiences, my personal experiences, I saw how as human beings ourselves, we're kind of very sensitive creatures. We're very we're meant
to love, and it's like really when you get down to reality, you know, it's really that inner intelligence that is just like just makes us loving and like transcends us, and it's really it's just beautiful. It's
That
beautiful. It's amazing.
That's
hear?
such an interesting point you bring up, Nikolai. Because I was talking to a friend the other day just about that internal knowing that we all have. That I guess if you will, whereas the masculine side more so relies on logic, and and our feminine side relies on that more internal knowing that we all have. It's just, I guess, becoming more connected with that sense of internal knowing and learning to listen to it, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We need to
Yeah.
find a way how to listen to it. Absolutely, bro.
I was just about to say, I like how you bring up the point, the internal knowing and a way to listen to it, because we can internally know, but if we're not actually like acknowledging it.
Totally. That's the ongoing struggle.
I know, that's one of my big struggles.
Yeah, likewise.
Do you guys have any particular tools or methods that you use to, like, on a day-to-day basis, retrain, you know, your subconscious so that you're not undoing your efforts, so to speak?
Wow, Joel. Hey, can anyone hear me over here?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's how I train my mind is that I practice Dzogchen every 3 hours a day. That's what I do to retrain my subconsciousness. Is that it's like I'm trying to visualize this deity that I have a particular quality in mind, and then all I do is like knowing that I am not separate from that quality, and then bam, I become that quality.
I think I missed what you said in the very beginning. What is it that you do for 3 hours exactly?
Dzogchen. So it's Dzogpa Chenpo from Tibetan Buddhist term for the clear light of mind.
Is that like a form of meditation of some sort?
Yes, it's an advanced form of yoga.
Oh, okay.
I just go outside and I take off my shirt and I just kind of let kind of like close my eyes, and I start feeling like the fresh, you know, wind of just hitting my face, and just like I just like, you know, imagine like this wind is basically what's, you know, it's just like cycling through our planet, and I just definitely get a really clear mental, like once I start thinking that something like something deeper comes out and something more real, like I start thinking, the wind affects this, and I start, you know what I mean, like I started thinking of the process of how the wind formed itself, and since all these all these biological features are connected to each other, I just go through this stream of just this moment of now, the divine moment of truth, where I'm just completely just inside of me and beyond, and that definitely, like, that's how that's kind of my routine.
Yeah, I know for me, like, earthing really helps.
Awesome.
Yeah, just going outside, taking off your shoes, taking off your socks, finding a nice, grassy patch, and just kind of going from there and connecting. It always really helps me.
Nice.
Yeah.
What exactly was the original question? How do we?
It was because you said how just one thing about realizing what we need to do, but then actually doing it. And so my question was, so often we sabotage ourselves because our conscious efforts are such a small percentage of our thought forms. So to get more positive thought forms on board via the subconscious, which is putting out most of our thought forms, if anyone uses any specific strategies to get the subconscious more programmed to support us rather than work against us because of poor programming that we got run.
Yeah. Well, one thing that works for me is to continuously put myself in a line or path of service to others. But in doing that, I have to also maintain a high practice of like self-service and self-care. So by providing like services to help people relax and meditation and qigong and pranayama breathing and all of these different things that I do, it's like for me the link seems to be missing if I'm just doing it and not sharing it with people, but if I'm sharing it and not doing it myself, then there's a missing link too. So it's kind of like the balance for me between doing.
Well, you are an inspiration then, Bonnie. Thank you.
Thanks. You're an inspiration too, Joel.
Oh, guys, have you ever thought of doing what we call Tibetan yoga of immortality and sun gazing? I also do that to get in touch with that deeper side of myself.
Interesting.
Like, if I were to sun gaze, if I were to like meditate for like 3 hours, sun gazing for only 30 minutes is like giving myself meditation for 3 hours. That's how I ended up getting. I only slept like 5 hours, and I still be able to do my own practice and get in touch with whatever the other side of myself is, you know?
Yeah, man.
And also I do Tibetan yoga of immortality, where like I practice gazing at my thumb and then just like spin counterclockwise and clockwise 33 times, and then after that I do other yoga poses like 33 downward facing dogs and all sorts of stuff, and that's how I just brings that inner self into the outside world, where I became like more useful.
Andy, let me ask you. You mentioned one of the things was spinning in a circle 33 times. I don't know where you. I'm thinking back. I remember, and I think this was from one of Bashar's channelings, because I used to watch a lot of his materials. And I think it was him that said that one way to, I think it was like achieving a greater sense of centeredness and balance. It was actually a kind of practice like that, where you rotate like with your hands stretched out, and you just spin in a circle a good number of times. I don't remember how many times, but quite a fair bit. And you're keeping your eye contact on your stretched out hand, as opposed to looking at the room or anything like that. So you look into your mind, you're not really moving. It's like the environment that's moving, but even though you're the one that's moving. And then you stop, and you just look straight at the wall, bring your hands to your chest, and just stare, and you see the whole room spinning, right? Because all of a sudden you stop spinning and everything else looks like it still continues spinning. And this whole process just makes you go so dizzy and crazy. But doing this as a daily practice, he's saying that it's able to really alter your mental chemistry. Is that similar to what you're talking about?
Yeah, in fact, people recommend doing 21 times because people tend to get dizzy and lightheadedness, but because like I already tried 21 times, it doesn't affect me that much. I go for 33, and it finally got me the ones that I wanted. But like once I got to 33, like I was permanently at an alternate physical state was different, mental state was different, everything just went like it went up. It doesn't go down.
Interesting.
I
like that's how
wanna sorry, Andy. I want to. You know, there's the monks that go into caves in Tibet. Actually, they did actual neuroscientists. They did actual PET scans on their brains. What a PET scan is when they basically get they scan your brain basically, so you get to see which part of the brain has more activity. And surprisingly, really surprisingly, what they found is that the Buddhists actually, you would think that mind becomes more and more active, but it actually doesn't. It becomes really more and more like quieter and quieter and quieter, and like they would get to like they would take professional like Buddhists, like professionals that could get into that state like that, and actually their mind like would quiet down. That's the thing. And there's certain things you could give which mimic that state, and found surprisingly also to quiet down the exact regions that the Buddhists kind of have it quiet down. So it's really fascinating. I think it's like it's really quieting down your brain to get in touch with the singularity of the inimaginable and the unspeakable.
Yeah, Nikolai, in fact, I actually practice all those things that they taught me, I also, because I'm a follower of Tibetan Buddhism also.
That's awesome,
so
dude.
Pretty much like the things that they learn, I learn. So like that's how A, I quiet my mind down, and B, I also practice sun gazing along with the earthing, and all three of those combinations affected how I begin sleeping, I begin. So pretty much like I used to be this type of person who was like get a lot of irritations, but eventually diet and when that practice came in, I literally changed. I was like, I don't feel like I don't want to eat that much hamburgers or any of those junk foods because my body doesn't get used to it.
I see. That's good for you, man. I'm glad you have a sense of sovereignty.
And what's funny is that when I recommend practicing this to other people, and I talk to people with developmental disorders, they literally gotten a lot, and they've gotten a lot better, in their intellectual development, and some of them even don't have depression anymore. Where they got perfectly.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you just, here's the thing, Andy, I agree with to a certain degree of what you're saying, but I really believe that it's about the individuals, and, just let them kind of explore. I mean, Tibetan Buddhism is a very interesting philosophy. I would say it's probably, it is, however, it is a form of religion, but it's one of the highest, most I mean, if I'm not gonna say like what's best and what's best. Like I said, I'm not really a religious person, so I'm just saying, it's very important to find what's good for you, and to respect the people's beliefs, and just fucking just yeah, embrace the people. Embrace the people for what they truly are, and their colors and their beauty, and their just their true inner infinity. That's what it's about. It's not about beliefs,
Yeah,
but
it's like going into the mysteries. It's like trying to comprehend the mystery. So like, what do you guys think about like some of the mystery schools? they teach things that will help you get in touch with that deepest side of yourself. Because I've seen a lot of religions, they talk about mysteries all the time, but how often do we ever pay attention to them?
Well, here's the thing, Andy. A lot of religions, they, you know, here's the thing. There's just the truth, right? And that's what people want. And there is a person that claims that he could give you that truth through their language, and that could be sometimes that could be sometimes maybe truth if the person has the evidence, but sadly, when it comes down to certain organized religion, you get you get that's where I believe you get a lot of instability in the society. I feel like if we all start fighting and saying Buddha is great, but that's my personal belief though. So I'm very secular to I'm not gonna enforce that to anyone. But I'm just saying if we all start kind of feeling the feeling what you're talking about, Andy, not kind of idealizing, I think well, the world would be definitely a much better place,
Yeah,
I
I think
think
what Andy's
most
was
people.
bringing at.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think what most people really would just benefit from completely is if they could realize that everything is a truth, not the truth, and go from there as far as accepting it. Of course, not everything, but there are wisdoms in different religions and different
Right.
philosophies and sciences that you
Right.
shouldn't just bypass because not all of it falls into this perfect box of the truth.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, and it's very important not to. I think, in my opinion, science is, more of a kind of numbers, and you want to find out the truth and how the mechanism works. I feel like religions and philosophies is more about a lot of those things are basically all about, like, if you take all the philosophies and all the things, what do they all have in common is like self-acceptance. That's what it is. So I feel like it's definitely a very it's once you start like thinking like how unique your mind is, and how powerful of a being you are, and how like complex, like just like complex, like the idea of just like you thinking right now about like in your brain like forming thoughts, like if you just imagine how like scientifically like that works, like you would cook your mind, dude, like you would cook your brain. I'm
Well,
telling you. I'll
like
cook you.
Brendan, he just did that review on Lucy. I think that's really cool that it's coming onto the mainstream as far
Yeah.
as something that is scientifically looked at as a faculty of
Mhm.
the human being. Actually, not just the human beings, but the human actually being everything that a human is intended to be. And yeah, that's one thing I like about the Hermetic laws is, as far as I know, most of them have been proven by science. And these were written thousands, if not a few thousand years ago, maybe even more, before they were proven by science. So yeah, I like balance. I like balancing spirituality with science because eventually they're going to come together and cross paths into one awareness.
Yeah, I
Eventually.
mean, it's that's what you're saying. There's like people like Isaac Newton. They were considered alchemists, and they were not considered alchemists for no reason. These people they you know, back in the day, when, you know, just the idea of this art of experimentalism started to happen, you know, the days of enlightenment, that's what it's called. You know, all these people, like, they believed that, you know, the process was, you know, which, like, because here's the thing, like, a lot of scientists today, and I could totally, you know, see that people are just kind of looking for the answer, and that's not, you know, that's not how I feel like, you know, that's where people, like, fuck up in science, because, you know, they're just looking for like a certain amount of numbers, and, you know, you get confused, and, you know, you're messed up, you know. But the most important thing, you know, where if you take, like how Isaac Newton did it, he had this, like, immense power of, like, concentration towards something, towards the process of distillation of, like, a metal, let's say. And, you know, that this is how he, started that, you know, the idea of, you know, I mean, you know, like, the relativity, and, like, the gravity, like, I mean, I'm, like, to be honest, dude, I don't think he just, I mean, he must have been, like, thinking, like, dude,
Actually, I
like,
was just thinking about that as far as what you're talking about. Where did the information come from?
yeah,
Because you know, we can get science, we can get knowledge from science, of course, but I
yeah,
don't think
inside of
we
you,
should
man, like, the
underestimate,
information,
or, you know, underestimate
yeah,
the ability for us to intuitively gain knowledge as well. And I
yeah,
believe that's where a lot of spirituality comes in, as far
yeah,
as gaining that intuitive knowledge that you can find through science. You know, the seven laws of hermetics. Those were intuitive knowledges that eventually was proven by science, as far as I know. You know, they might have been brought, but I don't know about that. I don't want to speculate. But what I can say for sure is some intuitive knowledge that we get. You know, a lot of the times, just like you said with Isaac Newton, you know, he gets this idea, this intuitive knowledge, and then tries to prove it through science.
yeah,
And I think that's important that we keep a balance of those two, because intuition is very important.
yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, yeah, there are ways how, to, get back into the actual real thinking of what you're saying, and, you know, there are ways how you could, tune yourself into the exact thing of what you're saying right now.
And
And,
I think I think
go
it's
ahead,
really
Joe.
interesting that I was never really sure about Newton, but one thing I did know about Einstein is he would talk about how he was just able to, as far as like intuitive knowledge, like I think it was something he would talk about, like with the candlelight meditation, for instance, and it would just take him so far into, I guess, the zone, if you will, that just ideas would come to him from just, you know, nowhere, if you will, nowhere, I guess, now, within, I guess, the paradigm shift community, within the chat, could be, you know, acknowledged as source, but just having that connectedness and that direct connection to intuitiveness, and how it's so very interesting that some of the greatest minds of our time seem to have, in some way, shape, or form, been able to tap into that. And the result of it is these amazing revelations that they come across, that are then, you know, that they are then able to prove through science.
totally.
And you know,
But
let's also look at religions as well, because the common in studying all these things, they all share the common theme of symbolism. Everything that they utilize, it's all speaking to the same thing, to the astral figures in the sky and their influences and their representations and the physicality of the body. They all speak to this. And then, so whatever religion brings forward in terms of tools to kind of help a person connect to an understanding of that wisdom, which is ultimately wisdom of the body, the temple, then that helps us to be our highest potentials. And but then that, not to take it too much of a twist here, but when a religion is expressed in how it is that we are looking externally, and that all the any form of savior is from the external, that's where it's hijacked mind control. And so if we take it back to just some practical uses and practices, like whatever Andy, let's say, pulls out from Tibetan Buddhism, practices that help go inward and develop that understanding. Looking at if these people such as Einstein and Edison, all these people that are able to really make all these connections. They have the kind of capacity to look at symbolism and to see the interconnections in things, which is what any person who would study religions in depth, they would see the common threads, and then be able to apply that into their applications as well. It's all about the symbology. How does it express itself in nature? The feminine principle of creation, the masculine principle of action, and then just finding almost like another language to express that. And then science seems like kind of become the playground for how can we figure out how all these little things fit together, because the whole is already known, and now they're just doing this like reverse game with it, if you will.
Yeah, man. I mean, yeah, like what it comes down to, like I feel it's all about the process of things, because how I've been and from my experience as like since in chemistry, I've kind of that's the only way I could figure out how things work is through the process, and it's not through it's through the actual process, because you could go wrong, and you could totally discover new things, and that's the beauty of uh like what you're talking about, relatively what you're talking about, just like experimenting and just like trying new things and just seeing what it looks like. And it's also like artists do that, and musicians do that, and uh, you know um, painters, and that's things that are weird, and weird sequences that's never been uh, experimented before, or and also going back to religion, when people kind of like tell you, what if you're wrong, like to be also like aware that if a person um uh like let's say, like, what if you're wrong about Jesus, and the other person says, what if you're wrong about, like, let's say the polytheistic um, Shintoism, which is the religion. Polytheistic means there's more than one god. So it's like the Egyptians believed polytheism, and in Japan they believe in Shintoism. They have the god of rice, the god of Saki, the god of the sun god, and it's really, dude, it's really fascinating, because from a
Well, Nick, one thing I wanted to chime in on real quick, since he was mentioning polytheism, is I have practiced Wicca, and a lot of people believe that Wiccans think that the god and goddess is what is, and I guess some of them do. But when you get the right books and you get the right knowledge, you'll realize that Wicca and witches, they actually recognize a source beyond God and Goddess called Akasha.
Like
So,
where the records are?
what's that?
Like where the records are?
Yeah, that's where they get the name Akashic Records. But yeah, the all-pervasive energy that they refer to in witchcraft or Wicca is actually called Akasha, and they that's where the god and goddess manifest from in the Akashic field from Akasha. So yeah, even Wicca has really this monotheistic view of, but takes it to a polytheistic existence, or just to better not communicate but relate to it.
Wow.
And Hebrew's the same way. As far as Hebrew goes, if you start getting into the Hebrew letters, you'll find that there's a lot of different, and of course in, I believe it's Exodus, the 72 names of God, that's 72 different aspects of God. And they call them aspects, but you could just as easily call them gods and goddesses.
Exactly, and at the end, it's like, what are the common principles across any of these? It's like the what's it called? The Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. That's Christianity uses. The Father being the masculine principle, the one that brings the energy forward. The Son being the byproduct of what the Spirit does with the Holy Ghost. And the Holy Ghost is actually a downplay of the Virgin Mary, the Holy Mary, the feminine principle. It's just an impregnation of the two that creates something new. And haha, that rhymes.
Yeah, and also, because I've been in Wicca, I also know that there was that one of the major, really major common symbols of the goddess is the dove. So, and the dove is the symbol of the Holy Spirit. So actually, they really are.
No. The dove is the
And the
symbol
Triforce.
of the Holy Ghost, which is also the Virgin Mary. It's all these are all the bastardizations that Christianity has done on the actual symbolism, because they want to downplay. They want to downplay the power of the feminine principle, so that the masculine is what stays at the forefront of. For them to be able to maintain an external rulership over people by getting people to acknowledge, look outside of yourselves, not within, because the feminine principle is all about the within. So even the dove, the Holy Ghost, is all a downplay of the feminine principle.
Well, I know for certain that the goddess has been represented in stories before Christianity as a dove. So if the church used that to control the masses, then yeah, I can see how they would have perverted that to their own, motives.
Yeah, because the feminine principle ultimately stands for care and the regenerative principle. And this is what anyone who wants external control does not want people to have.
Absolutely. Yep.
Well,
yeah,
guys.
Go ahead, Andy.
Well, guys, have you ever heard of the fact that Wicca, Hinduism, Buddhism, we all have one thing in common, is that we're pantheists, In Buddhism, we have a pantheon of gods coming from this one source, which is the clear light of mind, which is what Selfgen is.
Well, from what I'm seeing a common stating, I guess you could say, in most religions that basically boils down to that, about the feminine and the masculine. And of course, like Joel said, in some religions the feminine's been downplayed, but it all comes back to, and it doesn't matter if it's Hebrew. I haven't really studied that much Islamic or the Quran, but I know in Hebrew and quite a bunch of other religions, all the gods and goddesses of those different religions, no matter their names, come from an unnameable source, or maybe they just gave it a name without like Akasha, or source, or creator, creatrix, or what have you, the force.
I know this might be a little behind Richie. I'm sorry? Oh. Well, I'll just get this out really quick. I know this may be a little late, but you guys were talking about the truth earlier. And I thought it was a really interesting point you guys were making about how, you know, within all religions, you know, there lie truths. But I think it's also very important to have the discernment to find your truth. You know what I mean? Because while I don't believe everyone's truth is different, because at its core I believe the truth is the truth, I believe that, you know, everyone has to come to that to those terms on their own, you know.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. It's a totally a personal journey whenever you get right down to it.
Totally.
And that's even in religion. You know, I was raised Christian, and you know, you're supposed to develop a personal relationship. You know, and that's the thing, though. You're supposed to. No, I don't like being supposed to doing anything. You know, I'll do it if I want to. So that's when
I don't either, man.
Right. Yeah, that's why I take it to the level. I want to do it. I want to reach out. I want to be into that togetherness, you know, and inside that source, and to realize my place within it. I don't need to be told to.
Yeah, totally.
You shouldn't be forced to sit on Jesus' lap.
Hey, Mike.
Dude, it's
Hey, everybody.
There's so many things I feel like I could say to follow that up, but I'm just gonna let that one go.
Little boy.
Yeah, good old little Jay.
Little boys come sit on my lap. Nah, just.
Hey, it's good to laugh, man. It facilitates learning. I wish my teachers would have known that.
Joel, are you still there? Like,
yeah. Yeah, man, it's pretty funny. Like I've seen you know, it's funny. Like you get like when I first got here, like I just experienced like my friend took me into like a very evangelical church, and you know, it was a very interesting experience. I you know, it's funny, like people how, you know, and it was like I mean, people were like nice, you know, I respected the people, but the thing is, the pastor though, like that dude was just like trying to like perform like the Nuremberg rally, like it was kind of like, you know, like it was like, you know, obey, like he was saying like a lot of these things, and I was just like, yo, like, you know, it's like, you know, it's like, yeah, like lots of Americans think it as a rock and roll concert, you know, and it's like, dude, like it's not quite a rock and roll concert, bro. Like it's like I'm just like it's pretty. I mean, it seems like, you know, you're playing with people's like money, and you're playing with people's, like, you know, kind of emotions, and you know, it doesn't really get people to think for themselves. That's the thing. And
I don't want to offend anyone, but having grown up in the Christian Episcopal Church, at least I do not know how much thinking for yourself is allowed or really deemed appropriate in mainstream religion. No offense, please, not to offend anyone. Just in my experience, thinking for yourself is not, you know, really at the forefront. It's more of a, you know, I mean, they're called sheep, for Christ's sakes.
I was kicking.
it's okay, Sherman. In fact, did you realize that I grew up Catholic, and like there was no such thing as a self and a self in my either. In fact, I was persecuted too. Myself, they see enough. They call me the Antichrist.
Totally. I mean, you prepare to be persecuted to the fullest extent when you begin to voice, or you know, anything kind of contradicts what is considered doctrine and just kind of accepted by the masses. It tends never to be very pretty. I know, at least when I get around certain family members we just don't bring up I don't bring up certain things because I'm not looking for a fight. Like, that's not what I want.
Right.
And
Because there's a disturbance in the force.
yeah, and they're gonna shut down my force by any means necessary.
Oh yeah, because it's.
But that's when you uncover
Oh, I
for
know,
yourself,
man.
Sherman. That's when you uncover for yourself a natural exit point to any community that would say something is taboo.
Sherman, it's basically like you respect their beliefs, but they don't really respect yours.
Yeah,
Sometimes I don't know what to do.
Yeah, it's kind of it's kind of that point, you know what I mean? But I've gotten to a point where I've come to terms enough with, what I've begun to accept, and then, just kind of just stepping out of that box, if you will, and, really embracing the free form thought and the thinking for yourself and just the manifestations that come with that, and the freedom that comes with that, and how beautiful spirituality actually is, and how, just how welcoming it is to everyone, you know what I mean? And there is really no, well, this is wrong, well, this is wrong,
that's
wrong,
what.
Well, one thing that people I don't think they really realize.
That's what early Christianity used to be.
Yeah, if you follow the actual real teachings of Jesus and what he said and not what they said he said, he's
Totally.
against the church.
Yeah, that's one thing that always kind of confused me, at least from what I've read, Jesus was not about, was not really about organized religion or a lot of the things that are perpetuated nowadays that are, considered quote unquote God's law or the spoken word of Christ, if you will. Yeah. But, I mean, what do I know? For all we know, we're all, disinformationists, so who knows?
I mean, yeah, it's crazy.
He hung out with whores, man.
Yeah, that he did.
Well, I've read some
according to the story.
Some documentaries that show this man actually existed and went over to Tibet and become a Buddhist.
Tony, I've still got that on. Yeah, I totally need to see that. I think it involved the lost years of Christ.
That's what Reiki came about.
Awesome.
How he went to Tibet and went to go, learn to meditate and totally. I've seen that YouTube doc and I have yet to watch it, but I've heard from a few friends it's amazing.
Yeah, it really is a cool story. But if you go back to, I mean, in one of the parts of the Lost Years of Jesus, he even talks to the Brahmins, the priests, the Buddhist priests, and tells them that the knowledge that they're keeping away from the people that's wrong to do that. That everybody should be entitled to that truth. Yeah, and that's cool because it goes right along with whenever he goes back over to all the areas we've heard about until they're pounded in our head. He says the same thing. You don't need a middleman. You don't need somebody. Don't you realize that you are like the temple of God and the Spirit of God dwells within you? That is awesome. That's an awesome message that he's trying to teach this Buddhist philosophy to these other people, and try to get them to understand it. And I'm sure it was perverted throughout the years and throughout translations and preferably mainly
I think
King
it would
James,
be.
So.
I mean, if you think of it,
had a good message.
No, I mean the message at its core, just like all of the other, major religions, which I find very, very interesting, is just, all religions at their core kind of run along that same congruent line. You know what I mean? And then, as you begin to get a little further away from them at their core, they begin to kind of, separate into really funny directions. Yeah.
You guys definitely have a very anthropological view that I really admire because I don't have that view.
Right. I was gonna say, I think if you admired the dude, say you got the dude from 2,000 years ago. Hold on, Andy. If you got the dude from 2,000 years ago, if he historically existed, and say brought him here now and had him on an interview, on Larry King or 60 Seconds or something, and we're just saying, okay, so what is all this about turning water into wine, love thy neighbor, this whole thing? And he'd be like, you guys completely like
missed the point.
missed the point.
Like, and I don't want to, like, I really don't want to, and I don't feel, not necessarily bad for saying this, but personally, I feel like if Jesus was to come back today, they would persecute him faster than they did back then. I mean, can you imagine?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, a guy comes back and he's like, "Oh, you know, I'm G." Just first off, saying that would just get him shut down. I feel like he would be. No, seriously, like he would be taken out. Like, that's crazy.
Well, there's already a guy
I'm
in
saying
Australia who goes by the name of A.J. Miller who claims to be Jesus and incarnated in this life. And regardless of that fact, he hasn't been shut down, but the messages that he teaches are very synonymous with the allegories that we find about the path towards towards love towards God.
Oh wow!
And,
could you, I'm sorry, Joel. 1 second. Could you just say his name again? I wanted to.
You can find it on Facebook. Divine Truth is what you have to look up. And there are so many seminars that he has done, and his messages are amazing. Like, I really resonate with them, regardless of whether he's some embodiment of Jesus or not. That's besides the point. But understand that the Bible depicts only the exact same thing that astrology depicts. It is all just discussing what happens in the physiology of the body and how to heighten our physicality to its highest expression. That's all it is.
I feel like the Bible is a bit rewritten and
a bit.
Yeah, a bit.
Well, how many times has it been changed?
Yeah, about that, and it's always only changed by the people in power.
I don't know if y'all know about it or not, and I'm sure Nick will appreciate this, but the original Hebrew beginning of the word in Genesis, it's called Bereshith. You actually go in and look at the Hebrew letters and what they represent, you will find the scientific formula for the Big Bang.
Really?
Absolutely. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah,
See, that's one thing I find so interesting. I wonder how much was, like, quite literally just lost in the simple translation method. You know what I mean? Because when you're going from language to language, especially with a language that is so old and has such an actual, like, connection, you know what I mean? Like, I wonder how much was just lost starting there, going, you know, from whatever the original base language was to, you know, what it was translated into, because there you could lose, you know, a good amount, if not all of it, you know what I mean? And then you kind of got to fill in the blanks, and then you're working off something really completely different, and then you just kind of go by whoever's in power. Oh, I don't like this, I'll take this out, we'll rewrite this, we'll change this, and then, you know, by the time you get through, you know, 2 books, you could be working off something completely different.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Chad mentioned something. He's got a link for it on his website.
There was that one
Spirit Science School, and what it is it's this Jewish guy talking about the Torah, and it's really cool because what he's saying is that all Hebrew letters are numbers, and that the Torah is just a series of numbers.
Really?
Yeah, and they all like I think I mentioned this. I'm not for sure, but like the Hebrew for father is Abba, Aleph, Bet, and that adds up to a certain amount. The Hebrew for mother is Amma, that's Aleph and Mem, and that adds up to a certain amount. And when you add those together, you actually get the Hebrew word for child's thumb. I don't remember what it is, but yeah, it's like mathematically intact.
And then he's also got Marty Leeds' work up there as well, who also breaks down everything into mathematics. And he actually uses mathematics and his whole formulas of pi and all that to actually outline the entire depiction and meaning behind Jesus and the 33 years that how he was resurrected at 33 and the years of his missing life. He depicts it all in the numbers. So it's just like, it's all allegorical.
33 vertebrae of the spine.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. It's all allegorical. That's why none of it is to be taken literally, because then that misses the point. It is, again, looking externally outside the self to understand the self. That will just lead you in a perpetual circle of constantly being toyed with by those who are pulling the strings and telling you what to believe.
Well, the New Testament, it wasn't, as far as I know, I'm pretty sure it wasn't written in Hebrew first. The Old Testament was, the Pentateuch, the first 5 books. Those were written, and that's also the Torah. That's what the Jews call the Torah, is the first 5 books of the Bible, the Pentateuch. So as far as the New Testament goes, I don't know anything about whether or not I don't believe that was originally written in Hebrew, because it didn't happen till later on. Maybe Greek,
I mean, yeah,
first or something. But yeah, Marty Leeds is really cool. I've watched one of his videos, but I'd like to watch that one you're talking about, Joel.
Yeah, totally, Joel. That
What's
sounds
it called?
super interesting.
I'm just saying, I mean, if you read it with a logical understanding, and not even really saying, you don't have to go as far as trying to decode, but if you just read that with a logical mind, this dude got swallowed in a fish's belly for 3 days. That's some Pinocchio Geppetto shit.
Michael, how dare you actually forget the logic of the how does that not make perfect sense to you? What do you mean? People get swallowed by whales all the time.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, since that's their main course.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
They don't get killed by the stomach acid.
That's just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what the deal about
So
that.
it's not being blasphemous, it's just being scientific.
Oh no! I was
Absolutely. Well, it's like a whale compared to a whale.
No, I know.
Don't they like normally survive on like small fish and plankton, like the blue sperm whale? That would be like having a vegetarian eating a full-size ribeye.
Yeah, it's like intelligent design, dude. That's what it's like. That's what
I think.
Like it's called, so called. You know. It's like,
let me ask you guys a question. This might be a little off topic, but
One moment, I'll be right back. I'm still listening though.
Branching off of religion, what do you guys think about evolution?
well, in fact, I mean, there's evidence of, we found our ancestors' skulls, and I mean, we're genetic. Clearly, that we've evolved. We're from Africa. We all came from Africa, that's just scientific calculational fact. I mean,
well, with science, though,
I don't think we came from monkeys, though.
You have to consider that some of the other skulls they found were like kind of quote unquote alien looking.
That's it's speculated that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, that's why I said quote unquote. I mean, I don't know whether to put any.
There's a study that they call it the it's the theory that says that human beings are actually more related to dolphins and sea mammals than monkeys. Our hands. The Aquarian ape theory. Yeah.
You said what, Tony?
Have you not ever looked at your hands? You got webs on your hands.
That's the truth. Well, see, for me, I just kind of feel like it's the best theory we have to go on right now. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it holds no validity, but my